Drinking alcohol, smoking, and drug use are harmful to health.
In the bitter winter of 1692, the village of Salem lay shrouded under a blanket of unrelenting snow, its wooden houses huddled together like frightened children against the encroaching forest. The wind howled through the pines, carrying whispers that no one dared acknowledge, whispers of dark forces at work. Abigail Williams, a girl of 11 with wide, haunted eyes, tossed in her sleep, her small frame racked by convulsions. Her uncle, the Reverend Samuel Parris, watched over her with a furrowed brow, his Bible clutched tightly in his hands. Little did he know that the fits seizing his niece would ignite a fire of terror that would consume the soul of Salem. It began innocently enough, or so it seemed. Abigail and her cousin Betty Parris had been playing games with Tituba, the family's enslaved woman from the Caribbean, who spun tales of spirits and fortunes told in eggs dropped into water. But one night, as the girls giggled over their forbidden divination, a shadow fell across the room, a shadow that wasn't cast by any candle. Abigail screamed, her body arching unnaturally, as if invisible hands were twisting her limbs. "The devil's mark," Betty cried, pointing at a faint bruise on Abigail's arm that hadn't been there moments before. Word spread like wildfire through the village. The girls' fits worsened. They barked like dogs, contorted into impossible shapes, and claimed to see spectral figures pinching and choking them. The villagers, already on edge from failed crops, Indian raids on the frontiers, and the harsh Puritan doctrine that saw sin in every shadow, gathered in hushed groups. "Witchcraft," they murmured. "The devil walks among us." Among those gripped by the rising paranoia was Elias Hawthorne, a sturdy farmer in his 30s, with a weathered face and a heart heavy with unspoken grief. His wife, Martha, had died the previous year in childbirth, leaving him to raise their daughter, young Sarah, alone. Elias had always been a man of reason, tending his fields with quiet determination, but the whispers reached even his isolated farm. Neighbors spoke of spectral evidence, visions where the accused's spirit tormented the afflicted, even while their bodies were elsewhere. It was a concept that chilled Elias to his core. How could one defend against an invisible assault? One evening, as dusk painted the sky in bruised purples, Elias returned from the fields to find Sarah, only 9 years old, cowering in the corner of their modest home. Her eyes were wild, her small hands clutching a wooden doll. "Papa," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I saw her. Goodwife Proctor. She floated through the wall and tried to make me sign the devil's book." Elias's blood ran cold. Elizabeth Proctor, the wife of the local tavern owner, had been kind to them after Martha's death, bringing bread and herbs. But now, with the girl's accusations flying, no one was safe. "Hush, child," he said, pulling her close, though his own hands shook. It was just a dream. But deep down, he wondered. The paranoia was infectious. The paranoia was infectious. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the fire, seemed laden with malice. The trials began in earnest that spring, under the stern gaze of Chief Justice William Stoughton. The meeting house, usually a place of solemn prayer, transformed into a theater of horror. The afflicted girls, Abigail, Betty, and now others like Ann Putnam Jr. and Mercy Lewis, would writhe on the floor during testimonies, screaming that the accused's specters were attacking them. "I see her spirit," Ann would cry, pointing at the defendant. "She's pinching me now." Elias attended the first execution out of a morbid sense of duty, the gallows erected on Proctor's ledge like a skeletal finger accusing the heavens. Bridget Bishop, an outspoken widow known for her red petticoats and sharp tongue, was the first to hang. As the noose tightened, she proclaimed her innocence, but the crowd's murmurs drowned her out. "Witch!" they chanted, their faces twisted in righteous fury. Elias watched her body twitch, then go still, and felt a nausea that wasn't just from the sight. What if Sarah's vision was real? What if the devil truly lurked in the hearts of their neighbors? The fear escalated. Accusations multiplied like vermin. John Proctor, Elizabeth's husband, was hauled before the court for defending his wife. "This is madness," he roared, his voice echoing off the wooden walls. But spectral evidence sealed his fate. The girls claimed his ghost had flown through their windows at night, offering them apples laced with poison. Elias, called as a witness because he'd once argued with Proctor over land boundaries, hesitated on the stand. I don't know," he stammered, but the judge pressed him. "Have you seen anything unnatural?" Under the weight of staring eyes, Elias recalled a night when his cows had sickened inexplicably after Proctor's visit. Was it coincidence or something sinister? That night, as Elias lay in bed, the paranoia clawed at him. He heard footsteps outside, soft, deliberate. Peering through the frost-laced window, he saw nothing but swirling mist. But then, a shape materialized. A woman in a hooded cloak, her face pale and ethereal. Martha? No, it couldn't be. His dead wife? Or was it Elizabeth Proctor's specter, come to torment him for his silence? He bolted the door, heart pounding, and spent the night in prayer. But sleep brought no relief. Dreams assaulted him, visions of hanged bodies swinging in the wind, their eyes accusing him. Sarah's condition worsened. She began to have fits of her own, convulsing and babbling about the black man in the forest who promised her sweets if she'd sign his book. Elias confided in no one, fearing it would mark her as afflicted, or worse, as a witch. But the village was a web of suspicion. Eyes watched every move. When Goodwife Nurse, a pious elderly woman, was accused, Elias couldn't stay silent. Rebecca Nurse had nursed Martha in her final days. "She's innocent," he whispered to a neighbor, but the words were overheard. The knock came at midnight, a week later. Constables burst in, their lanterns casting grotesque shadows. "Elias Hawthorne, you're under arrest for witchcraft," they bellowed. Sarah screamed as they dragged him away, her small hands reaching for him. In the dank jail, chained to the wall, Elias learned the accusation. His specter had been seen tormenting the girls, urging them to false accusations to save his own skin. "But I was home," he protested. The jailer sneered. "Your spirit roams free, witch." The trial was a nightmare. The courtroom sweltered in the summer heat, the air thick with the stench of unwashed bodies and fear. The afflicted girls pointed at him, shrieking, "He chokes me! His ghost is here!" Abigail collapsed, foaming at the mouth. Spectral evidence, untouchable, unprovable, piled up. Witnesses claimed to have seen his form in the woods, cavorting with familiars. A black cat, a yellow bird. Elias's defense crumbled. Even his old friends turned away, lest they be tainted. As the days blurred, Elias's mind fractured under the paranoia. In his cell, he saw visions. Martha's ghost, weeping, warning him of damnation. Was it real, or the devil's trick? He confessed once, in a moment of desperation, spinning tales of midnight Sabbaths to buy time, but recanted, knowing it damned others. The judge, unmoved, sentenced him to hang. On the day of execution, The crowd gathered under a leaden sky. Thunder rumbled in the distance, as if the heavens protested. Elias climbed the gallows steps, his legs weak, scanning the faces for Sarah. She was there, held by a neighbor, her eyes hollow with terror. "Forgive them," he whispered, echoing Christ's words, but his voice broke. The noose slipped around his neck, rough hemp biting into skin. The trapdoor creaked open. In that final suspended moment, Elias saw it, a spectral figure in the crowd, smiling cruelly. Was it Abigail? Or the devil himself? The drop came, a sickening snap, and darkness swallowed him. But the horror didn't end with the hangings. In the years that followed, Salem withered, crops failed, families fled, and the survivors whispered of ghosts haunting Proctor's Ledge, apparitions of the executed, their necks twisted, seeking vengeance. Sarah grew up in the shadow of that terror, forever marked, wondering if the witches had been real, or if the true evil was the fear that had devoured them all. Even now, on moonless nights, if you listen closely in the old burying grounds, you might hear the creak of invisible gallows and the faint accusing whispers. Innocent, innocent. The Salem Witch Trials had ended, but the paranoia lingered, a spectral evidence of humanity's darkest depths.